Alright, well, you probably know why you're here. I'm going to be showing you how to make, or at least use, the level editor. So, not going to waste any time. I'm going to choose Sonic 3, and make sure your screen ratio is 16:9. And go to manage your levels, and then create new. From this one, I'm just going to go with test, because it's easier. And right off the bat, you'll have this layout. Not very long, pretty simple really. And well, we don't want that because I'm going to show you how to make your own original level. But first off, I'm going to show you how to use buttons. So the obvious two are the start, that's where you spawn, and the goal, that's where you end. That's how you make your level title. You know, you pick and choose your words. Got to get real creative because there's not a lot of them. This changes the palette of the level, the tiles, and sometimes rarely the objects too. As you'll see, it doesn't show here, but these are actually changed. These are white with this. But rather than that, it's usually just the tiles. It doesn't always go with objects too. And now, this button for the music, you can put your own custom music ID in. If you don't know how to do that, there's a tutorial on YouTube somewhere for that. I'm sure you'll be able to figure it out yourself though. So just pick whatever you want, and then this button, it's to either make your level wider, shorter, higher, you know, whatever. As soon as you start up, make sure it's the smallest it can get, because it'll remove all those tiles that were already put there. And as you create your level, only go in increments of 32, so 32, 64, you know, keep going up from there. But with the height, you can already put that to 48, doesn't matter. So that way you're not bogged down with having to fill out the entire level. And now next is the colors. So you can also choose your background here, but ignore the background color. You won't ever need to change that. And the background tint, it just makes a layer of color over the background. Same thing as the level tint, makes a layer of color over the level tiles. And same thing with the objects and character tint, a layer of color over those. Change them if you want to, but I would highly recommend just googling color picker and then using that to pick a color, and then just copy and pasting those RGB values into here, and that way you know what you're doing. The next button is the water, so toggle it on and off. It's pretty buggy, is that some levels, I'm not sure which ones, but if you turn it off, it doesn't matter, it just stays there anyway. So a little more on that in a second. This right here is how you change the height of it, and this is how you change how fast it'll go up. Just put it to 0 and it won't move. You can change the color of the water too, but this will show it right on the screen itself. So we can put that to 32. And you'll see it's like that. 1 is no transparency, and 10 is full. So mess around with that if you want. And note that if your level is 48 tiles tall, the higher the number, the lower the water will go. The higher the water is, the lower the number needs to be. So if you don't want any water in the level, but the level's still forcing water in anyway, put the number up to the highest, which is 6,144, and it'll put it at the very bottom. You can't see it, but it's like right about right there. And now this button, not a lot of people get it, which is fine, I understand. It's a little confusing. So basically, when you choose your character at the main menu, you know, that's the character you play in everybody's level. But if you choose any of these buttons, when you play that level, it'll force you to play as that character. So we have the Sonic 3 Sonic picked. Well, if we want people to just play as Tails or something, choose that, and then when people play it, or even when you test it, you'll be spawned as Tails every time. You'll see that there, just like that. And also once we drop down, you'll see that the water is at the very bottom. There it is, easy as that. And now, the eraser button is completely useless, ignore it. Don't need it ever. It's, I don't know why it's there. Lives can change your lives, obviously, time limit, whatever you want, instant respawn, always turn it on. It's just so much better. And then test, we already showed you that, you know, just test it or not. But before you test it, always make sure you save and continue. You always want to do that, make a habit of it, because if you accidentally leave the game somehow, whether it be your computer dies on you or something, you're going to lose all the progress that you didn't save. So that's kind of obvious too. And now next I'll show you how to use the tiles and the objects and how to make a smooth transition. Alright, now we're on to tiles and objects, obviously. So first off, tiles. You already know how to place them. Left click, left click, left click. And now, why I said the eraser was useless earlier is because these tiles have a right click function where whatever you right click, it will choose that. Put this down, put that down. You right click it, you have it. You right click it, you have it. If you right click the air, which is chunk 1, it acts like the eraser. You just erase stuff as you need to go. And that's why that's useless. Same thing as the objects. Place them down. Just right click where that little pink thing is, and it'll get rid of it. And so, first off, I see a lot of people make levels where they're really wonky and that the height will just get really different real fast. It's not so apparent in test levels, but it's definitely more apparent in stuff like Green Hill, which I'll show you what I mean in a bit. But before we get to that, I'll just lay out something real quick, something easy. Alright, something as easy as that. One thing to note when you're making a level though is that you want to cover at least 2 tiles underneath where the player is going to be. Otherwise, you're going to be able to just see anything below and it'll look kind of funny. So, make sure you cover that. Also, with your level, you want to be careful on how high or low you put it, because some backgrounds, the lower you go, it just stops. So like, Syndopolis, it can go all the way up to here, but I think it only goes down to like about here until it just stops rendering the background. And I'll show you what I mean here. So, I'm not sure which backgrounds do it because I haven't used all backgrounds, but I'm sure you'll figure it out. Just gotta make sure you test. As you see, we're going down, and there's the purple. Once we go down a little more, yeah, it just stays there. So you don't want to see the purple because it looks so out of place. I don't know if it's just the level, the background looping. I'm not sure, but it looks kind of funny. So I think it does it with Collision Chaos Past as well. Like I said, I'm not entirely sure. Haven't tested all of them out, so you make sure you test it. So I'm just gonna keep it simple with like Green Hill. And so now you know how, you know, tiles work. Now about the objects. These are a little funky. I always see people just kind of spam them wherever. It's usually the case for mobile players too. If you're playing on your phone, it's really hard to place them and delete them because the screen's so small. I don't blame you. But it's much better to do it if you have a mouse because you can really move it precisely where you want it. So, you know, just try to make them not such a mess. Don't put them too high. Sonic can't usually get them up here, so put them about like right here at the bottom third. But you can usually put them about like here, like at the top fourth. And now, besides the rings, the enemies, you have to attach them to the ground. If you put them up here, they'll just fall until they get to the ground. But it makes a lot more sense to put them at least like 1 pixel above the ground, because before they're even seen by the player, they're already loaded in and they drop to the ground. Because sometimes if you think you put it on the ground, you actually put it in the ground and then it gets stuck. It's a little funky, so just be careful. Don't spam the starfish. It's just don't do that. No. You see a lot of levels where they just spam a bunch of them and you're like going fast and you roll through them all. No, just don't. Checkpoints, be sparse with them. Don't use them everywhere. but make sure you put them properly on the ground. See how that's touching the ground? That looks good. The monitors, don't put them right in the way of the path because that just blocks you from going. I've been guilty of doing that before. I gotta fix it in some of my levels, but just don't put it straight in the path. Maybe put it up here if there's like an alternate path or something, if you can like jump onto that and like hit a spring and you can get it up there. But don't put it in the main path for people to slam into it and stop. It's annoying. People don't like that. Same thing with spikes. Don't just put them on the main path. It gets a little funky. And now, bubbles, you always use these underwater. You don't have to spam them everywhere. Just use them here and there. No reason to put them above the water though. Springs, I think it should be said for all these things, just don't put them in the main path. It doesn't need to, except for a few of them, like springs. If they're going like this or something and you need to go somewhere, that's obviously, you know, you can do that. One thing I have to show you with springs though, since these are a little weird to place, sometimes run through them. When you're placing them in the test level, try to line up that corner right with the corner tile, just like that. You'll almost always hit that. I think you will. I could test that real quick. I'll show you how to put the springs the other way so that you always hit them. Whenever you test it, you can just keep moving them and finagle them around until it works. And don't know why I stopped there, but you see, I hit the spring. Perfect. And now, with other springs, I noticed people try to put them in the ground if you like need to go backwards or something. They always put them around. Put it so the left corner, I'll show you with my mouse, right there. Make that line up with the ground. Either it be just a tiny bit below it. It has to be pretty much lined up like that. You'll always hit it perfectly. With springs facing just upwards, put them so that they're lined up with the ground. And they're gonna, with the test tiles, they're a little weird because there's always that air between each like little square, so you'll probably see these anyway, but that's fine. Some levels will accidentally put them a little above the ground, which looks a little funny, but yeah, finagle until it works, and we can test that out too. Test these two springs. As you can see, they work pretty well. One thing about this one, it's a little funky sometimes, so just be careful. Like I said, keep finagling it around until it works. Okay, so now you know how to use springs. Pretty simple. And next up, we'll probably be going with same thing with spring ramps, you know, same thing with springs. Dash panels. Don't spam them everywhere. You won't need to unless your level is like, you know, based around them or something. I don't know. Just don't put them absolutely everywhere. It looks funny and you get no reward for going fast. It's just go fast automatically. Arrows, rarely need to put these anywhere unless where you're at is a tricky spot and players might not know where to go. Master emeralds, I usually like to hide them in my levels in areas that players won't usually go to. That's just like a, look at that. These, if you're going to put them somewhere, put them where you're going slower, right before the hazard. See, also, imagine this loop wasn't here. People will put the hazard sign right there, where the drop is. And you're already going to be in that drop by the time you see it. So, if you're going that way, put it like, maybe here or something. But since there's a loop here, I could put that right there, and the players will see that as they're going around the loop and try to stop. Obviously I already know it's there, so showing you is going to be pointless, but I'm going to show you anyway. As you can see there, you could see the warning sign right before we ended up in our demise. So make sure you use those correctly. And now, spinning spikes, the little spikes that are on the ground. I don't usually ever use these. they're just wonky, but also don't put those in the middle of the path. It's just so annoying. The rain doors, I usually wouldn't use those unless there's like a maze or something. Balloons, you know how balloons work, obviously. The platforms, don't spam these everywhere either. If you need like to fill a gap or something, you know, use a bridge, or you could use these moving. I usually use these to get to secret places. You gotta be creative with it, honestly. So bridges, in the test level, they're a little wonky. You have to put them so there's a little gap of air on the left side. You'll see it right about there. You're never gonna be able to get rid of that since the test level tiles are so weird. But you just kind of have to deal with it, honestly. And now these breakable walls, a lot of people don't get how to use them, and I don't blame them because they are a little confusing. But before we do that, real quick, these are the same rotating blocks you see in Chemical Plant, so just so you know. But now I'm going to show you how to use these rotating, or not rotating, the breakable walls. So real quick, they only take up about half a tile, so we can put this right here, and then put a little more ground behind that. So you put this one, the one with the light, on its left side. You gotta line it up smoothly. And sometimes it's not always going to place right where your mouse is. It's going to place like a little more to the left or right or down or up. So you just gotta be careful. And then these middle ones that don't have light on a certain direction, put them in there. And then for the end, you use the dark end one. You put it right there. There you go. It may not look like it, but that is perfectly lined up with the wall. And now when we test, we'll go up to it. You won't even notice it really. Yeah, see, there it is. Looks smooth. You can break through them all. Perfect. Alright, so now we're gonna make a green hill level because that's usually what people go with. So, select green hill, and I'll show you how to use the objects here too. Always make sure to get rid of all that. Put that real tiny 3x1, perfect, and then 32, and this one's only 32. The water will actually go away when you choose it to in this one, so you don't gotta worry about that. And now, here's the thing when laying out tiles, is that not all of them match up. You notice how the grass here cuts off abruptly? That's because it's meant to connect to other tiles. You don't want to do something like this though. As you can see, that grass is cut off, that grass is cut off. If you were to go into that, you would just go right through. Make sure the tiles are meant to connect to each other. So do something like that, and then do something like that, instead of just doing that, because that looks funny, and it doesn't work. So there you go, and you might not be able to see it, but there's like tiny little walls here. That's meant to be there, and I'll show you how to use those in the objects in a second. And as you can see, they're all right here. There's quite a few of them. And gonna move Goldrain up here when we're testing. Gonna move Sonic down here. And so when you get to something like this, there's not a lot you can do from there because that tile's also kind of weird. But I usually where is it at? You things where you drop down. Yeah, this. Notice how it doesn't cut off abruptly. There's the grass right there. Not sure what to do about that. But you know, just kind of get over it. I think it might be best to use like a bridge here. I don't know, this tile's always real weird. Oh, I forgot. There's these themes. Yes. So there's a few types of these, and I'll show you all of them here actually. So there's this one where this one nothing connects to. Looks fine by itself. This one stuff connects to the right of it. As you can see, the grass ends abruptly right there. Doesn't do that up here because nothing is supposed to connect to it up here. This one, stuff is supposed to connect on both sides, up here and down here. You can put that right here like that, and as you can see, it transitions smoothly. And then down here, you could do something like that, and as you can see, it's meant to. And then there's one more where it's like this on both parts. Gotta find which one it is. Not this one. it is this one. As you can see, it's smooth on all sides. Nothing's supposed to connect to any of it. It just sticks up at the top. And as you can see, that's how you do that. And when you're putting tiles below or above, use the correct tiles. Just trust me, just do it. As you can see, this one connects there. You don't want ones that are like this, how there's just air there. It doesn't look good. It looks weird. Looks kind of funky. But the more you make levels, the more you'll get used to it. Now, for some cases, you kind of have to use what you got, because there's not a lot for below ground tiles. And that's where some of these other tiles come into play, or at least objects, and I'll show you how to use these. So first I should probably make a little section that shows it off and how they work. So let me just, something like that, maybe. Usually I wouldn't use that piece right there, but oh well. This is just for a demonstrating purpose. Or, yeah, no, this works good. Okay, and actually a loop might work better. Here we go. So it already looks like there's a wall there, but you can actually jump over that. You can put more walls above it, but these ones don't have any hitbox, so that's a little wonky too. And now I'll show you how to use these objects. And real quick, I'm going to change the color of this so that way it's a little easier to see these objects as I'm placing them down. So this one, solid wall 2, tells you up there. So this one, can't run into it. It's solid from each angle. This one is the same as that one, except it's got a little shade at the top. So that's meant for going like under stuff like grass. And then there's the non-solid walls. Those are the same as those, but you can pass through them. Then there's the dark one, and then there's the non-passable dark one, the solid one. So here, you're gonna line it up just right, so that way they all connect. And notice how when I place it, places it a little to the right. Just kind of gotta get used to it. It's fine. As you can see, since that's already solid right there, you're gonna hit that. Can't pass through that. And now, one thing I also noticed is that this tile, you can actually get in right here, and then you're soft locked. It'll keep you there. You can't move, you can't jump. The only way to get out is to exit the level. So if you're somehow like around here in the level, if that's a way you can go, I would block this off. But I would use this one like probably about like that, and then use a few more below it. Just like that. That works good. And now, when we go back to regular green hill, there we go. It blends in almost perfectly. And in the gameplay, you'll notice that too. So once we go off that ramp, we'll hit the wall above it. As you can see, we hit the walls up there. Because right here is where that tile ends, but we put the walls right there, and we hit those, and we didn't go through. We'll do it again. As you can see, it's perfect. Amazing. And also back here, you can notice we can drop down and stuff. And that's why you always put those wall tiles below, because now you can just see the background. Looks weird. So, we'll fix that error real quick too. We'll put some of those walls right down here. And now if you're at a spot like this down here and you don't want to be able to go off, remember, put those tiles down. I'm going to change it again real quick, so that way it's easier to just see where you're placing them. So, place this up here with this one. Actually, I should change the color a little more. Yeah, there we go. So place that like that. Then, because that one has the shade of grass on it overlapping. Now this one is placing to the left more, so just gonna have to go to the left a little bit, place it like that. And you'll notice there's a little gap there. You don't want that, because if you can somehow squeeze there, then it'll kill you. So just move these down, and can usually maybe squeeze one in there to fix that. It's a little wonky. You won't really notice it, but it's good there. So I'm gonna go back to Green Hill, test it again, and you'll see that you can't go through there. It's blocked off now. And the reason why I'm emphasizing or going over these walls here so much is that people use them or they don't use them correctly, and it's really obvious in the level. And as you can see, you can't go through it. And make sure you're using the solid one and not the non-solid one, otherwise doing that is pointless. But and that's how you make a level.